It's Monday, April 23rd, 2012. I'm Alex Jones, and this is INFOWARS Nightly News.
Tonight, Alex explores the environmental dictatorship taking place on land, sea, air, and even in outer space, as he has breaking environmental news from Climate Depot's Mark Moreno. Then, are celebrities being targeted by the TSA to condition the public for invasive grope downs? Plus tonight's top stories and more on the INFOWARS Nightly News.
Again, thank you for joining us on this Monday edition. I look at the news as it unfolds, and it's like broadcasting during a war, because it is. Tiny, inbred global elites waging war against the natural order, against the free market, with their attempt to establish a global monopoly of a handful of central banks known as the New World Order. And our first grouping of stories really will take up most of the evening. And it's the environmental global dictatorship being established. It is the Agenda 21 UN plan written by the megabanks on record to create global zoning to shut down human activity. Unless you're a global licensed entity, then you're completely exempt and can engage in any environmental crime you could imagine. It is about going after people for the air they breathe, what we exhale listed as a toxic waste, carbon dioxide, and it is about creating a total government state to impoverish and enslave the people. Here is Human Events, respected newspaper, getting into Agenda 21, and it says planning a vacation this summer to Miami's Biscayne Bay for a little fishing. It's banned. Having a boat banned. You are only allowed to go out to your knees in the water. Other beaches are being completely shut down. They're shutting down the California sequoias. Can't drive into those. Huge areas of public lands. 80+% of the West is government land. Not really public, though, now. The bankers want you to get used to not using it so they can develop it and steal it and do other things and sign it away on the fake national debt. But they're saying you can't even enter many of these areas now. Again, you want to lounge on the soft sands of North Carolina's Outer Banks and read a novel, fly a kite with the kids? Banned. No, 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 it goes on to read. And they now have no trespassing signs going up in many areas. You're not allowed. Training you that you can't use it. Mark Moreno's coming up to talk about this. Big developments. It goes on. The Park Service that operates the Cape Hatteras National Seashore pledged to replace the no trespassing signs with new signs that will read, walk near the water's edge, stay below the high tide line. So you're not allowed to get up high on the beach, and you're not allowed to get more than over your knees in the water. You've got little narrow areas, and there's going to be bureaucrats there to get in your face and to deal with all of this. And it continues. Remember those maps we've shown you with right at half the country, the UN says, off limits in red. The UN Biological Diversity Assessment maps. Core reservoirs and core corridors, because they also block around the reservoirs and lakes and rivers. Little to no human use. Yellow, highly regulated use. And you've got other constitution-free border zones. Then you've got normal use. You can barely find the green areas there. Indian reservation, military reservation. So a giant prison grid in America. And people are like, oh, they'll never implement that. Oh, really? Multi-$1,000 a day fines for dust in barns from hay? But if you want to put out some GMO crops that kill the bugs that we then feed to the humans, it kills bugs, but it's okay for you to eat. That's fine. That's not environmental. That's not a invasive genetic warfare species of bacteria or viruses. It continues. In California, Representative Devin Nunn says that by eliminating horseback rides to the backcountry, the National Park Service has essentially blocked the only access that many Americans, including those with disabilities and the elderly, have had to the wilderness. Yeah, you can only walk in a few miles. The new restrictions are the result of a law brought by environmentalists who say the activity may be a threat to nature. Yeah, you heard me right. Losing the permit. See, a permit is a license to do something that is illegal. And then they just stopped giving the permits. How did New York City 50 years ago start banning guns? They said, you got to get a permit. Then they stopped issuing the permits. It's almost impossible to get one. It's like getting a permit to the moon or something. Losing the permits means that at least 15 companies that provided horseback rides are out of work this summer, along with an estimated 500 employees. Yeah, I was, as a child, one of my favorite things was to go to national parks and pay and get on the horses or mules and go out for the day, eat lunch down the bottom of the Grand Canyon, come back out. Not anymore when they're done. You're like, oh, that'll never happen. The TSA will never stick their hands down your child's pants or take 95-year-old women behind closed doors and rip their clothes off or rob hundreds of people's bags a week at the JFK airport on record. Who do you think wants these jobs? Pedophile perverts. Real men want the woman to desire them and want them and pursue them. That's what's exciting. Only sick filth wants to grope movie star women, and that's coming up. But it's worse. At least those guys want women who are full grown and to put their hands on them and force it on them. That's bad enough. The lowest scum in the world. They don't even want to touch the woman. It's the power. It's the humiliation. It's the children they're after. And that's why so many have been busted as pedophiles. Good God, what have we become? And now they're doing warrantless bag checks on street corners all over the country, including Houston, Texas. And when lawyers said, hey, you're violating the Fourth Amendment, the TSA said, go to hell. And when lawyers said you're violating the 10th Amendment, they said, go to hell. Their sacrament is squeezing your genitals. Think about that. Land of the free, home of the brave, pot-bellied pervs are going to rub your wife's breast. They're going to grab her crotch. They're going to go between her butt cheeks. And if that's not enough, get back. They're going to grab your daughter. And it's our country now. And don't you try to go to the seashore. And you're not going to ride horses. You're not going to enter most of the land, period. It's our country now. It's a new world order. And it's just getting started. We'll secretly arrest citizens if we want to. It's freedom. Don't listen to Alex Jones, who warned you about all this as it starts to come true. That's radical. Don't get upset. It's a long article. They're banning everything. Folks, I knew years ago when I go to the national parks and have a camera out and they'd run over and scream at me with hatred. I was at the Grand Canyon and had them, we stopped and asked for directions, and she demanded we get out of the car and began screaming at us, saying, you're not supposed to be up here trying to park. And we were just driving around by the hotels. And we're like, well, we just asked you politely where the parking lot is. And I had to be very calm, and country's so gone. It's so gone. We're so humiliated. All these scum, all these nobodies want uniforms so they can dominate us and rape us and abuse us and molest us and do everything they do. And it's only going to get worse. Giant hordes of the new armies of the Enviro cops are being created. Hell is being released. The Amish are being arrested. Oh, I've gotten into one article. Where does it end? How bad does the outrage have to get until you start saying no to these scum? I had a feeling I should do a road trip and go speak at some stations and take my children to see national parks, because soon you're not going to even get into them unless you pay giant cash to these criminals. It's all part of breaking our will. Just like in Europe, they're handing over the Greek islands, you name it, to the very bankers that ripped them off. This is our journey into slavery. This is the social engineering. Let's continue now. New Big Brother satellite to hunt down carbon criminals. They're already using the old satellites in Australia, New Zealand, Europe, England, U.S., Canada. You know, when people build a barn or something and the Enviro Nazis say they can't or whatever, they're already doing that. But now they got these billion-dollar satellites to, quote, hunt down people that have got a fireplace or burning a fire. Space heaters are being banned in Europe, fireplaces, single-family dwellings, families are evil. It's just turning loose the greatest scum the earth has ever imagined. Authoritarians who know they are. Anti-human, bloodthirsty, ugly people. When you see these New World Order people and their minions, they're always ugly. They can barely read or write when you actually, they just give themselves professorships. It is an army of scum who hate those of us that are virtuous. You must realize those that hate liberty, they hate human destiny. They're afraid to compete with others because they're so miserable, and they operate as fervent gangs, 1,000 to 1, against powerful humans to enslave us. They are the enemy. Get her off the screen. Let's get back to the article. These people, can't look at that. Get it off. It's not funny. She's smiling because she knows, okay? It's all hers. She's got the Rothschilds behind her. Earth is hers. Everyone's laying down to it. You guys know when to flash that on screen. You know I can't handle it. I'm like a bull that just saw a red cape. Just get it, keep it off the screen. It's not funny, please, God. Okay, continuing here. If we talk about her, she'll just have her video banned anyways. After all, she wrote a letter to the president saying ban freedom in America. I mean, on record. She's like, I'm not saying medicate or grab everybody. Even though my paper said that, the other paper's like, get rid of freedom. Authoritarianism's the answer. Okay, continuing. The target is to hunt down environmental violators, said Dudek, adding that the satellite will have the capability to detect methane, that's farting, and they are already in Europe and Canada taxing farting. I'm not kidding. They say it's unnatural. Of course, this is what part of the atmosphere on this planet. What? It's true. Meaning farmers whose activity is already policed by a network of spy satellites and drones could face fines and taxes depending on the flatulence levels of their livestock. They're going to tax us for farting and breathing. I mean, you just turn yourself over to a bunch of miscreant globalist minion heads. I mean, heaven help us. And we have good, virtuous people who are just like working hard, living their lives. I'll turn it over to the experts. And every control freak just runs to take over all the power centers. Continuing, we have a video clip of this up on INFOWARS.com. Professor depicts blood-dripping knife machine gun while talking about population control and getting rid of humanity. And again, keeping track of you there with the little loving satellites. And I guess with the satellites, they can then show us machine guns and all the rest of it to take good care of us. And again, you can read that article at INFOWARS.com. And I guess with the satellites, they can decide whose house to burn down because that takes us to the next article when they're always talking about how they want to be violent with us. Climate alarmist calls for burning down skeptics' homes. Let's start keeping track of them. Let's make them pay. And it goes on to talk about burning our houses down. And this is just par for the course. You question handing everything over to the green tyrants who aren't green at all, who haven't found a GMO they didn't fall in love with, and your house needs to be burned down. It's just that simple. And again, you're violent if you don't want to have your house